Okay.
Too much info. You probably never knew I was in the Boy
I
Scouts.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Did you ever make the Eagle Scout
Heck
or what?
no, man. I started late. I was the oldest kid by like 6 years. It was weird. It was,
Okay.
but it was good. I was thrown into leadership from day one. I didn't even know how to tie a knot.
That's like the story of your life, dude.
Absolutely.
It's like every single time.
Absolutely.
All right, we're getting kicked off here. Episode 000 of potentially talk of the trades. Maybe
Yeah.
take the lead. We're figuring out. It's gonna come around. Today we're gonna talk about just a few different topics. So, want to talk about annual marketing plan for the trade companies. Just what you should be thinking about there. Also, the rise of zero-click search. It's been a really buzzy term. I will be the first to admit I love burst terms and just throwing them out for clients because when they hear that, they're like, wow. But also shows some thought leadership. Then going to try to talk about just some of the changes in HVAC with the refrigerants coming soon. And then ChatGPT's new $200 subscription.
Hurts
So,
me.
I know. So I'm paying $20 right now.
Yep.
But 200 seems like a lot. So cool. Well, let's jump into it. So annual marketing planning for the trade companies. What do they need to know, Aaron?
Yeah. This is something we really started about, 3-4 years ago and doing annual alignments. And
Yep.
this is when, historically we were an SEO company turned into web development. And then as we added pay-per-click and traditional marketing, we realized we could create a document that shows your full picture and your annual picture.
Yep.
And I remember a client specifically, I won't throw their name out there, back in the day that in December and January, their revenue dropped historically.
Yeah.
Just every December and January. And, he challenged us, how do we get around that? And as we took a step back, and this was probably 2019, 2020 even, we built out that marketing plan. It was like, well, okay, well, why are you reducing your marketing spend
Yeah.
in November and shutting everything off? And he had never been able to see that 30,000 foot view where we show your marketing spend,
Yep.
your revenue year over year, and then what's your percentage of spend going back in is. And he started to see it, and he's like, let's just put the pedal to the metal this year. And so we stayed consistent.
Yeah.
We honored that marketing plan, and we hit the goals. And I think, plans are meant to be changed as things evolve. You can lose staff. During COVID, we had a client who their plumbers went out on strike and didn't want to run jobs because of COVID.
Yeah.
So things happen, but if you don't plan, you're not going to hit your goals. And so I think it's really important there, and it allows us to reflect back on underpacing, overpacing. You can't really hit the mark every single month on your ad spend. And so it's just a cool opportunity because, as you know, most of these business owners, if you're 3 million and under, they're doing a lot. And oftentimes they're answering the phones, they're working with the call center. They don't really have time to work on the business. They're working in it.
Yeah. Yeah. When I think about planning, it's so important because some of the things you brought up is like we need to understand year over year comps, right? Because we all understand, like specifically for HVAC, we have like the shoulder season, right? And there's two different philosophies in the shoulder season. Are we going to ramp up and like fish while the fish are biting? Or are we going to pull back and just kind of rely on just the overall demand? So I always love looking at that and understanding what the revenue goals are based on like year over year comps. The other thing too is just being able to plan and understand where your dollars are going, so we know what that percent of marketing is based on your revenue every single year. And so when we're able to kind of get those dialed in, then we have like a baseline, and then from there we can really start planning out tactics and understanding, okay, what am I doing from like a upper funnel brand awareness perspective? What am I doing from a lead gen perspective? The other thing too is what we find is we have contractors, as much as we want to be able to own everything they're doing, they're always getting hit up by vendors, right? And so there's all these, CPL and lead platforms. And then before you know it, it's June and they're like, hey, yeah, I signed up with, so-and-so lead source. And then we're like, well, how does that affect the budget, right? And so us being able to kind of mitigate some of that stuff and say, hey, let's stick to the plan. But if there is other lead source opportunities that come up, how do we adjust some of the existing budgets, right? And so one of the things that we always preach to our clients is what is our balance of like brand awareness and lead gen? Because as we know, Google has just gotten more and more expensive,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the landscape is just so competitive. And so, how do we start building brand? And I think that's one of my big struggles in the role I'm in, and strategy, and talking to clients and get them to understand that, because it's such a long term play, right? And you got to spend a lot of money before you start seeing kind of the fruits of your labor. So, what are your thoughts on just building brand and that overall?
Yeah, I mean, it's the best thing you can invest in. And, I coach a group of accelerators here in entrepreneurs organization, and I've been an EO for like 7 years. And when you look at building your business and growing your business, in early 2000s, maybe 2010, Rockefeller habits were really, that was a big, the way to run your business. What's your BHAG? What's your why? Now EOS is really running through a lot of the entrepreneur
Yeah.
circles. And I bring those up because what's really important with the brand is we get a lot of clients that come in, like, we got the best team, we get there on time,
Hmm.
we're pretty good at pricing,
We're trustworthy.
we're trustworthy, we're loyal,
Yeah.
like, trust us.
Right.
And it's great, but what else?
Right.
Because that's what your competitors say. And I can't tell you how many times that our clients have then said, well, yeah, but they're lying. Okay, well, who knows?
Right.
And Google reviews can only tell us so much of the story.
Exactly.
So, building your brand and brand awareness diversifies. And I think we'll get into it a little bit later, of trying to be everywhere as AI increases the zero click searches and
Yeah.
people start to pull data from different data sources. You want to make sure that your brand is memorable. And
Yeah.
this is one of, kind of going in the back to the annual planning, as we've seen over the last few years, a lot of people that don't have trades experience are getting into the trades,
Yeah.
and they're coming in from PE or from some money moving concept and other industries.
Yeah.
And what they love to do is look at your marketing plan and kill targeting, kill marketing on specifically Facebook ads or Meta
Yeah.
and social ads. And if you're looking at a one-to-one relationship, and some of the awesome things that Service Titan is doing, giving you ROAS and giving you reports based on marketing channels, it's giving you some strong reporting.
Yeah.
My stomach's yelling at me. But that reporting doesn't matter if the data is wrong. And this is
That's
something
true.
we talk about a lot, or
Yeah.
if it doesn't tell this full story.
Yeah.
And so when we're talking about branding, when you're doing Meta, we always say do not expect to get a bunch of leads. And
Right.
if you do a lead form ad, expect for most of them to be spam, and you're going to have to be aggressive in outbounding because there's a lot of accidental clicks there.
Yeah.
What it's great for is brand awareness. You're getting cheaper CPMs, cost per
Mhm.
thousand impressions, than you might on a billboard, than you might on traditional.
Yeah.
And also you're able to use that first party data.
Yeah.
And I think, tying back to what you were talking about, like, well, what are you putting in front of them?
Right.
And what is the brand message? And I talked to Brendan here a couple times. He manages an account that I see our Facebook ads and our Instagram ads a lot. I don't log into Facebook. I see a lot of Instagram ads.
Hmm.
Um, and we're telling the story in about 75% of the ads, but I typically only see one ad, and it's a stock photo of an HVAC unit 25% of the time.
Yeah.
And I keep telling him, hey, we got to kill that. And his response is, do you want to also kill the most successful ad in that
Right.
mix? And the answer is no, but we've got to tell a brand story with it.
Yeah.
And if your brand story is the same as your competitors, how are you standing out?
Yeah, and I think a couple points there. So one pro tip on the Meta side, if you are doing lead gen ads and you are seeing more spam, what we like to do is increase that barrier to entry. Right, we want them to put more skin in the game. So expand your forms to ask more information, like what is the age of your unit, whether it's a water heater or a HVAC unit. What is the age of your home? Things that are going to help potentially inform you and understand if this is like a warm or hot lead. How soon are you looking to get service? Stuff like that will help cut down on some of those things. And then to your point on the creative, it's important to make sure that you have multiple forms of creative, right? Because Meta, their algorithm is going to put whatever the best performing ad is in front of the audiences, right? And so we had a annual alignment with the client yesterday, and we showed him his top performing ads, and he's like, "How?" He's like, "This is dirt with two holes in the ground, right?" And I love creative, and I'm always like trying to put out very polished and things that look like ads, right? And some of this UGC tends to perform better. But doesn't mean you shouldn't test other formats, whether it's video or different type of creative, to make sure that you're giving your audience an opportunity to decide on what works best. So I think that's what's important on that side. Going back to the branding piece too, like not only is it important like externally, like what your brand represents, but like what does it represent internally, like for your company culture. And you talked about the why and some of the operating systems that like EOS specifically that folks are doing, and all that stuff is great, because if it starts internally and if they're bought into the brand and what they do, then that's going to go into the home. And then, you know, the customers are really going to know that your brand is authentic and these guys are, what I saw externally is true internally, right? And I think sometimes there's like a disconnect there on some of that. But you know, as a trades company, you got to get away from saying you're trustworthy and honest and all that. Those should all be given, right? And so you really got to do an exercise to say what makes us different and, you know, unique, and to be able to build like a brand story around that. So not only externally people resonate with it, but internally you can build culture around that.
Yeah. Yeah, and one of my fears, you know, as you talk about user generated content a little bit, and I'm going to be terrible at staying on a script, even though I'm a rule follower. But like what one of the fears, and I'm also a little excited about it, is what content generation looks like, even as soon as today.
Yeah.
Because as people are using AI of all kinds to generate content and create content ideas, um, what the algorithms and what most AIs are going to do is it's going to pull what's being successful and tell you to do the same dang thing. And
Yeah.
I saw there's a case, or there are a couple of them, where influencers are suing other influencers for copying their style, their format,
Yeah.
their graphic design. Well, if you're all using Canva and Canva has the same apps, has
Yeah.
the same AI tools,
Yeah.
like
Same
how are you
templates.
being different? And
Yeah.
so some of those differences that can be unique is working on your business in your annual planning, saying, okay, does our team know what our core values are? Do we live that?
Right.
Well, how do we then tie our core values to a brand promise to the client? And then how do we create content around that?
Yeah.
You know, instead of trying to just sit down and say, okay, marketing intern that I just hired, use AI, now put 10 TikToks together.
Yeah.
Go.
Exactly. Yeah. And that comes back to the planning side and understanding, okay, how are we going to plan out some of that content? Setting measurable goals also is super important. You know, we're always trying to understand from our clients, you know, what are your goals? So we have kind of a North Star, and then we can build realistic budgets around that and realistic plans, you know, because we hear it all the time. It's like, I need 500 leads. And then, you know, the budget does not match kind of what that goal is, right? And that's a difficult conversation to have. So being able to have specific goals. The other thing is really leveraging the data you have. I always love when we get clients and they have, you know, a CRM with 10 years of data and, you know, an ads account that's got a ton of data, so we can look at it and understand. Because if we can understand, you know, what does it truly cost to book a job, then at that point it's somewhat of a math problem. We can back it out from there and say, okay, if we know, you know, it costs $320 for us to actually get a truck in the driveway and book the job, then we can back out, you know, from there, because CPAs can be subjective depending on how we define those rules. Cost per clicks, you know, are all, you know, in Google space or whatever cost per click platform you might be using. So really leveraging your data, understanding that, super important for planning as well. And then, you know, obviously some of the tools and strategies, just, you know, making sure you got an agency that you can trust, and they're going to be open and transparent about what your budgets are and what's going towards actual working media dollars, what's going towards like their management fees. Understanding that's going to be super important. And then figuring out what is the right mix of media depending on what your goals are, right? Because, you know, $1 to $3 million shop is going to be much different from a $30 million shop, right? $30 million shop is going to have a lot more to be able to do brand building and some of that stuff. And when you're 1 to 3 million, you know, you got to kind of pick and choose, right? But sometimes when you're at 1 to 3 million, you got to be willing to spend a little bit more on marketing, maybe 15 to 20%, just so you can work on brand building. And as you see more revenue, that percentage comes down overall.
Yeah. As you're speaking, I've got like 5 different rabbit trails we could go after,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to consolidate. And I think one of the things that would be interesting to at least spend some time on is, practice what we preach.
Yeah.
And, our core values, as much as we made fun of trust, they spell out trust. It's
Yeah.
team first, results driven, unrivaled responsiveness, service mindset, and tenacious pursuit.
Yep.
And then the results driven, one of the things we talk about a lot, and this comes really from my background as an SEO, is we seek the story behind the data. And this is something that we want to encourage our clients and our team to stay persistent and being inquisitive, especially over 2025, as Google search is going to change. You're going to start getting more zero-click searches like you're talking about.
Yep.
We need to have a realistic conversation about the data. And I'll be super vulnerable, and maybe you guys will pull me off the podcast at some point. But over the last 2 years, we really struggled where I think we got caught telling the story behind the data.
Yeah.
And it became an ego battle with a lot of our clients where they weren't answering the phone.
Yeah.
You're not taking care of your leads.
Yeah.
And, we have account executives that have never run sometimes a home services business, but we're just trying to tell you, but we're marketing experts. Here's the story.
Yeah.
But it might be somebody that got a personal relationship with the call center and they know that this person's dealing with something and they don't want to press them.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to make an initial assumption and then ask yourself the question of, what if I'm wrong?
Yeah.
And, there's a client that hurts me, that super awesome client. I talked to them yesterday, actually, and they left about a year and a half ago, and we were talking to them about the call center. We create automations to kind of get around it, sending them text messages when a voicemail happens. And I just saw they left a review on a call center company that said, over the last 6 months after hiring them, it's never been better.
Right.
Revenue's great.
Yeah.
It's like, we were saying this a year and a half ago,
Yeah.
but in the way that we said it, maybe it pushed them away. And so, but that's our job. We're supposed to tell them the story behind the data.
Yeah. And, when we talk about core values, I think I resonate a lot with just the service mindset and, we're all about the greater good. And, it's such an important point on, sometimes the call center, it's, the owner's wife answering the phone, and he doesn't want to hear that they're missing calls and stuff like that. But that's the reality of it, and those calls can be expensive, in HVAC, it could be up to $200 just to get the phone to ring. And so it's not like we are trying to pass on blame. We just want people to understand, like, hey, it's super important. And I think it's part of the reason we launched Lead Pulse, which, is our AI call grading tool, to be able to let folks know, at least like at a high level, hey, this is how many missed calls you had. Here's some calls that were handled poorly because we know we don't want to give pricing over the phone or don't want to be rude to customers and that sort of stuff. So, it's a tough battle that we're always, but when we have the data, it makes it a little bit easier. And when you can send a call recording to a client, because we have had clients who have made actionable steps and they've shared the data that we had with their coaches, their business coaches, and their business coaches were able to also tell them. So sometimes we do have advocates that'll help us get that across and, help us kind of win that battle, for a lack of better terms. But at the end of the day, we just want to do what's best for them and make sure we're not wasting any dollars.
Yeah, Monday morning quarterback here. I think another tactic that we could have handled this differently with some of the clients is playing some of the phone recordings in the meeting instead of emailing them along. Because, I was 10 years ago, 2014, a good friend of mine and Ben's, Elmer here in San Antonio, we had him listen to a couple, and one of them, like, the AC was not working, and his CSR was talking way too fast, and it was clearly a no cool, it was not working.
Yeah.
This is a replacement opportunity. And she lied after being 3 times saying, "What did you say?" "Oh, wait, it just clicked back on." Left that meeting 10 minutes in, said, "I got to go talk to my team."
Yeah.
Like, we gave him the tools necessary for him to take action, but a lot of people don't either want to take action, or maybe it was presented in the wrong way. And the truth doesn't lie. You gotta play that for them too.
Yeah, we had another client. This is a funny story. They're a 24-hour service, and his CSR was answering the phone like hungover in the middle of the night, and they didn't want to believe it was true until we pulled the call, recordings, and he was embarrassed, and he had a conversation with them, but that one was brutal to go through because it's just like, hey, here's the recording, and like clearly this person is not in a state to be answering the phones. So we ended up losing that client anyways, but at least we got to share that with them. So
Yeah.
cool. So we mentioned zero-click search a couple times.
Yeah.
So what is zero-click search to you? Like, what do you, when you start to hear that term, like, what do you think?
There's nothing new about zero-click search. It's just got some rocket fuel behind it.
Okay.
Rand Fishkin is probably a name that most trades guys don't know, but he's one of the leaders in search and SEO, and he was at Moz for a long time. He's a big advocate for small businesses and a lot of things. And in 2012, I went to MozCon, and he really went after, man, I think it wasn't salary.com, but it was a net worth website. And so if you Google search, what is Floyd Mayweather worth?
Right.
Then they have all the details. They paid all the researchers to go in and find out what Floyd Mayweather's net worth was, right?
Okay.
Well, back in the day, Google then rolled out the knowledge graphs where they would scan and crawl website data, like on the networth.com, and then they would just give you the answer in the search results. So if you search what is Floyd Mayweather's net worth, you would never go to that company's website. Google just answers it for you, and it's in the best interest of the searcher. And you know what? That business tanked because they couldn't pay their researchers anymore, because everything was off of ad traffic. Like you go to their website, they make money off of ads, right?
Yeah.
So when you cut out 60% of their traffic, if not 70% of their traffic, how are they going to make a living off of those page views? And coming up 12 years later, it's the same philosophy.
Yeah.
It's zero-click search. People are getting answers in either ChatGPT, they're getting answers in their search results pages on Google or in Bing, and it's not going to slow down. And so it does not make your website any less relevant. But what it does make more important is branding, and like you mentioned earlier, right? And so when you do get an answer that is a zero-click search and an AI summary comes up, they still give a footnote of where they found it.
Right.
So does your logo stand out? Does your brand name stand out?
Yeah.
Or are you San Antonio AC Repair of sanantonio.com, and making sure that you're memorable and that you stand out. And, that's something that KickCharge has done a really good job of for the space.
For sure.
Making brands stand out. And it's an opportunity if you've got a lot of similar vehicle wraps and similar names in your area. Look at the color comps around you.
Yeah.
Are you blended in?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's part of it. I think making sure that you understand where your honey holes are. If you look at like Yelp, or Yelp is much hated. We're a platinum partner with Yelp right now.
Yeah.
I know the trades hate it, but Yelp gets really good rankings in Google.
Incredible. Yeah.
And so if you have a really good authority on Yelp and take care of your customers there, you're going to take care of them everywhere else.
Yeah.
And the number one ad buyer on Yelp, they've got some bad Yelp reviews, and Yelp won't remove them. So the person bringing Yelp a ton of ad revenue is not able to remove reviews on Yelp. And while that may seem shady to that agency, it's just that's Yelp's core values, is making sure that they're the voice of the customer. How did I get onto Yelp when you were asking about zero-click search?
Because
we'll be back.
I think just Yelp, they have done such a good job. Like anytime you search top HVAC company, it's like in the SERP, they're like boom at the top. So they've done a really good job of that. So on zero-click search, what are going to be like some of the implications now? Because you mentioned like, the knowledge panel was there and stuff, but now it's like at the very top of the SERP. And so like, you're not even, the scroll rates I'm sure are going to go down, but like, what do you think some of the other impacts are going to be specifically to like, in the trades, like, because of this, improvement on zero-click search?
I mean, the footnote here says organic traffic is going to decrease.
Yeah.
Okay. Baseline, right? Of course, organic traffic is going to decrease. But there are implications of that organic traffic decreasing. One of them for us is first-party data. So organic traffic, if somebody searches, why is my AC making a dripping sound? Then they land on your website. We now historically have that person to where we can follow them around the web and we can keep your brand top of mind with your really cool core purpose and everything that differentiates you. Well, if they never visit your website, we're going to lose that first party data.
Yeah.
And so that's one loss, is making sure that our
retargeting, retargeting is going to be impacted.
Yeah.
How do you think like decrease in just organic traffic will impact like SEO and like domain authority and, you know, that sort of stuff? Because how much of it is it about traffic, and how much of it is it about Google being able to scrape your site for these answers that will show up in these kind of AI snippets now?
Yeah. Without traffic, you're going to have less value.
Yeah.
It's just, Google will tell you that that's not reality, but it's reality. I mean, we typically, and this is even a paid, like a PPC conversation, where a lot of really good agencies love to build landing pages because you keep the focus on the client's landing page, and you have a higher conversion rate. We do landing pages, we A/B test, but we also see more organic traffic on websites that we send paid traffic to. Yeah. So there is a correlation, without, even if Google's going to say there isn't one. So I do think that, I think that the value is creating authority based on either a figurehead of an individual that leads the company, or turning the brand into an authoritative source. So I do think we're going to start seeing more companies put out less content on their website and start putting it out on the social sites. And so I think that's actually an opportunity for the clients that value their web.
Gotcha.
Especially as people hire marketers in-house. It's much easier for a marketer to control TikTok or Instagram than to understand how to update your website and build long-form content with the right silos and build authority that way. So I do think it's an opportunity for the ones that do website marketing right. And, you know, our philosophy is, use your website as the hierarchy of, I'm going to start all the content from the site. So if I've got a content silo that talks all about the new Freon changes and what's happening with HVAC in 2025, and we've got 10 articles about it, well, you should be using the website content to then create social content, to then create everything off of that. And so I think it's an opportunity. And I think it's also an opportunity to make sure that your re-engagement tactics, like in Service Titan or House Call Pro, whatever you're using, HubSpot, making sure that you're putting that content back on your website. And so when you're doing email drips, when you're doing push notes about filter changes, send them back to your website to create more value there. Yeah,
I think that's going to be the other big point you just made, is like the channel in which you drive quote unquote traffic to your site, whether it's organic or paid, is going to have to diversify, right? Because if we lose this big chunk of traffic from the SERP, like, where do we make up for it, right? And so, you know, having more enticing content on your site that someone might get through a newsletter, right? Or through your social page, because they saw your video and then they decided to go look at your website because they're interested in eventually changing the siding on their house or getting new windows, or, you know, they got a water heater they know that's old. So I think that's an important point, is like understanding where are you going to be able to get more sources of traffic to your site if all of a sudden you lose such a big one here. So cool. What about, like, for some of the nerds out there, what are like some technical things do you think that you've been seeing? Because I still feel like it's such like a black box. Like, we don't really know how they're like, or why, or who they're choosing for these AI featured snippets. And I think we've been really successful just because of the foundation, and since the whole EAT kind of rollout, a lot of our content has always kind of followed that. And I think we've had like 5 or 6 clients that we've been able to get these AI snippets from, and I'm not sure if we've done anything specific for that, or we've just relied on writing just really relevant content. But from a technical standpoint, what are your like thoughts on this? And like, we have some notes on here about, you know, schema markup and avoiding common answers and optimizing your Google business profile. And full disclosure, ChatGPT wrote this for us. So, you know, what are your thoughts on that from a technical standpoint?
Unfortunately, that you mentioned the footnote, I didn't read that one yet.
Okay.
But schema, absolutely. Like, authorship schema is a big one. So
yes.
Making sure that you have authorship, making sure that you have somebody in the business that's willing to put their name on it. or creating a fake persona for the brand that is your author. That's one, but the second really key one that a lot of people don't understand is content cannibalization. Like,
Okay.
are you answering the same question on multiple pages throughout the website? And so, historically, building out more content is always the win. Like, go exact match searches and have a page for every exact match search. So if you're saying, let's do the why is my AC dripping water?
Right.
Well, then writing another piece of article that says, why is my AC making a dripping noise? Like, and then another one, and then, so you're answering the question on all these pages.
Right.
There's going to be, because it can crawl, because the AI and their bots can crawl a full page quicker. Answering it in a long form, and letting the AI use synonyms on its own, I think, is also key. So, we've got some clients, and our content team and SEO team have done a really good job of, when we inherit a website, auditing, okay,
Yeah.
well, what content do they have? Because they may have a WordPress blog that has 300 blog posts, and they're all saying the same dang thing.
Right.
Consolidating that content. And honestly, it's heartache for a lot of the business owners that's like,
Yeah.
well, I paid for that content.
Right.
Yes, but it's weighing your site down. You're not
Yeah.
tricking Google anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think that's another big key is cannibalization, going back to authorship, but then I think having a content repurposing strategy of getting it out on the social media channels, making sure that you're linking back from an X post, from
Yeah.
comments in Instagram, and building
Yeah.
that up too.
And speaking of social, like, tell me about like what you've learned about the whole Reddit thing, because that's been a big thing, within the past like few months with their partnership with Google. And so I know you've been looking into that more. What are some things you've seen there?
Yeah, so Reddit has an agreement where they're going to end up in the top 5 organic results for just about any search, and we've seen it become a gray hat tactic from SEOs, if not borderlining on a black hat tactic of
Yep.
asking a question of who's the best AC company in Norman, Oklahoma,
Yep.
answering it with a different user and putting a link back to your website,
Yeah.
and then closing the thread, answering it, saying, "Oh, well, this is solved. We know
Right.
who it is."
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think there's always been, for me, a hesitation on doing black hat tactics of
Yeah.
Reddit is where the trolls go to have their voice heard, and they're going to have some rebuttal to
Yeah.
any positive. So as much as I'd love to put all of our business owners on an AMA thread on Reddit,
Yeah.
there's still a lot of heat that you may take, and a lot of clients don't want to take it. But if you're
Yeah.
willing to, Reddit is the place to go right now, and that's
Yeah.
what's winning right now. But what I would also want to look at is they're not just putting Reddit. What they're doing is they're showing, for a certain search, they're showing, or the ads, organic. People also ask. Then they're showing communities, right, which is Reddit.
Right.
Well, there are other communities that are being pulled along with Reddit. So paying attention to the ones that are beneath Reddit as well.
Okay.
Quora's always been a big one.
Right. Yeah.
But there are a couple others that I can't recall right now that I've seen in the search results. That
Whatever happened to Ask Jeeves?
oh, dude, what happened? Can we get an alert out there? Let's find where Jeeves is.
I
I have
know.
no idea.
That's funny. I remember back in the day, that one, and there was another one like Wolfram or something like that. When just way back in the day when Google, I guess, didn't dominate the SERPs, but yeah. So Reddit, the big thing also there with Reddit is Redditors don't play around, man. They will sniff you out real quick. So authenticity, I think, on Reddit is more paramount than any other platform, because like you said, that's where the trolls. You think Yelpers were bad, like Redditors are worse, but there's kind of like a nobility in that they're like protecting the platform.
There is, and there's when you actually bring value and you're authentic about it. Who cares about algorithms? Who cares about the visibility thing? Because you can do real good. And if I can tell a story really quickly too of how I used Reddit recently.
Okay.
I've got a friend that got out of the service industry that's running an HVAC company, and in that local market, there was a person that asked, "How do I get into the HVAC industry?"
Okay.
I'm in the food service business, and I hear that my friends or other people are making a lot of money in HVAC. How do I get into it?
Yeah.
So I called my buddy, had him send, well, what was your maturation process and what happened there? He sent me his content. I cleaned it up. I posted a link back to our website or to the client's website.
Yeah.
And then the kid DM'd me and asked if I'd be willing to put him in contact with the
Oh, from
owner.
Reddit?
Uh-huh.
Oh,
And
wow.
so and
Cool.
so I was totally honest about, hey,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not this company. I own a
Yeah.
marketing agency.
Yeah, yeah.
Here's someone that has your story. Here's what he told me.
Okay.
He's at this company, so I used a backlink to go to his company.
Yeah, yeah.
I said, he'd be happy to talk. And
Wow.
the kid, and this just happened like a week ago. The kid applied to work over there, wanted to be a parts runner, and used me as a reference. He may be a terrible hire,
Right.
but we provided him some clarity and an
Yeah.
opportunity, and actually provided real value. And heck,
Yeah.
we got a really good backlink off of it.
Nice. Yeah, that's a prime example. And I'm a huge Redditor. I love it. And so it's always great when you do get like that type of content. Like I love the subreddit of leadership because I'm always on there and, people sharing like real stories and stuff
Mm-hmm.
that like we go through on a daily basis. Love to hear that. That's really cool, man. So awesome. What else on zero click search? Anything else people need to know in terms of this? It's because when I heard this term, it was just like
Yeah.
mind blown. But then when you mentioned it earlier, like zero click has been around like forever when you talk about the knowledge panel and stuff like that. But I
Mm-hmm.
think now the page, the SERP has continued to get retooled and they just made it even better so you don't have to click through. But I will caution folks, like you can't always trust like what the AI says, and always like what do you always say? Trust but verify.
Yeah.
And so we encourage folks to do that as well. But I do like as it's matured that now like they're sourcing it and there's links that you can click through if you need to. Because I think when it first rolled out, that wasn't very like transparent, and they were just
Mm-hmm.
kind of a race to get stuff out there. So
Yeah.
interesting in
I
that.
mean, I would say like I'd caution marketing leaders or business owners in a trades company from just going and harassing your SEO company and asking them like, "What the hell are you doing?"
Right.
Just to save my fellow nerds out there, but also to paint the picture of we're figuring out what this looks like too,
Yeah.
because we're putting out really strong content. Hopefully, if you put out good content, it's going to get rewarded. Is what's always been said. I don't agree with that anymore. I think if you put out great content and you share it properly, you'll
Yeah.
get rewarded. And so I would ask your SEOs or your marketing team, what's our content repurposing strategy? And
Yeah.
so when we find, and what I would use is impression search in Google Search Console to identify what queries are we getting momentum on, or what queries may get 0 clicks but we're getting impressions on, to then use that to build social content.
Yeah.
So if we're saying, hey, attic ladder installation pricing or deck staining is something that we're getting more impressions on, in the past at our team we'd say we don't want to tell the client because it's not getting clicks and it's on page 2.
Yeah.
That actually is really valuable now, of like, look, there's a lot of search volume. We
Hmm.
might be on page 2 and we're not getting clicks for. Here's how we do that: put out a video, host it on YouTube, put
Yeah.
out a video, put it on TikTok, put out a video here, get email content. Now this is your email newsletter to your client database,
Yeah.
because this search is currently popular, we're trending for it. And then link back from your outreach to your clients, because it's our job to educate our customers on what's going on in the market.
Yeah, I think the fundamental principles of like how you build trust with consumers hasn't really changed, and it's about building authentic content. What's changed massively is just getting it out across all the channels because there's so much noise out there.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I heard Gary Vee say the other day, which was really interesting, he made a bold claim that he says, "I don't think it's social media anymore. I think it's interest media," right? And people are like going to platforms for things that they're interested in, which I think is true. But the way we consume like entertainment and knowledge now is so much different, and even my user behavior has changed. Like it used to all be about Google, but now I have Perplexity and I have ChatGPT, but then also like TikTok, because everyone is a different form of like learner. Some people like to read, some people like to watch videos, and also it's like depending on what you're trying to do. So yeah, so all good points there. I think main thing there is just remain authentic, and the author profile stuff is super huge. I think we've seen some major gains around some of that stuff as well. So
Mm-hmm.
cool. The next topic we had here, and we might be out of our league on this one a little bit,
Yeah.
y'all, but at least want to talk about it because it's very going to be a very big topic in 2025, and it's the changes in the HVAC refrigerants. So Aaron, you've been working in the trades a lot longer than I have. Can you talk about when you've seen similar changes, whether it's refrigerant or just different laws changing, and kind of what implications has it had overall, and maybe what some HVAC business owners should be kind of preparing for?
Yeah, and I've got a meeting here in 3 minutes. So
Okay.
what we talked about earlier too was we'd love to get a subject matter expert in this to talk about the details. But for me, I think just coming from a marketing angle, this is the opportunity where you see a lot of bad faith actors trying to
Yep.
upgrade families into homes or into systems that they don't really need. There's some big fish that I've seen do some really interesting financing deals of like long-term financing.
Yeah.
Using fear as a tactic works, and I hate it. And we don't promote using fear as a tactic for sales and for marketing. But from everything that I've seen, that Freon, the old Freon's going to be fine for the next 5 years, possibly even like 8 years as new systems get in there.
Yeah.
Just making sure that buildings are up to code. I think that's more of a commercial change. That the new Freon is a little bit more flammable. So there are some building codes which we're saving the environment by putting in more flammable Freon. It doesn't make sense to me. The math doesn't math. But, it's okay. Let's save the environment here.
Yeah. A couple other points on that is just, really making sure your techs are trained on it. They understand it. You're sharing that information, and then obviously communicating it to customers to keep them informed. Last thing we had here was just ChatGPT launching a new $200 subscription. We all knew it was eventually going to go up, but check it out. It's just got expanded memory capabilities, more powerful tools. Who knows what it's going to do. We haven't had a chance to completely jump in there, but just so you guys know, that is rolling out for ChatGPT. So for some of you guys, it could be useful, others not. If y'all find some good use cases for it, let us know. We'd love to know. So cool. All right. Well, that's the end of episode 000, man.
Yeah. Hopefully we can stitch in here and get an interview with an HVAC owner or somebody in the trades that has more of the technical stuff. I think that would be fun.
Okay. Good stuff. Well, thank you guys for tuning in to the first episode, and more to come.
Yeah. Thanks, Mom, for watching.
Awesome. Sweet.
That's too easy.